Well, to be honest, I won't talk a lot about qualitative data analysis because in the qualitative lab that you will learn almost everything that you need. And with Brian, you will learn how to do it and why you are doing it. So I will just talk briefly about the qualitative data analysis. So in order to explain that, I want to tell you that, again, important concepts, that we have two types of data: primary data, which again is the one that you collect directly from the people that you are studying. And this is very, very important. It's data that you collect on your own. Like, it's not like someone else's goes and does the interview. Is you do it. Okay, so that's primary data. And secondary data is things that already exist, like for example, emails or reports or videos or something like that. You can have qualitative data from secondary data too. So again, it is a good idea to combine primary data and secondary data, but it's not mandatory. Or be smart and be wise when you combine primary and secondary data, because sometimes I see a lot of students trying to push this a lot, like they say like, I'm going to do interviews and also collect secondary data to improve the validity of my research, but it's not clear what type of secondary data, why, and what are you going to overlap and to check in order to improve the validity of your research. So be very careful when you do this. And then we talk about data reduction because sometimes we collect a lot of data, but this is more like the case of a PhD, when you have been collecting data for like 3 years, and then you have so much data that you can do like 5 PhDs. So you have to reduce at some degree. I think that in practice, and especially for a bachelor thesis, it's not like that. Like, you collect enough data to write your thesis, but usually no more than that. But I think Brian will tell you more about this. And here are some steps or guidelines that you can follow to analyze your data. But the important thing, and I think this is something that I want you to learn from this lecture, is that when you collect data, you can start actually analyzing. Again, Brian will tell you more about this, but you can start, for example, you do the interview and then you obviously record the interview. This is also Emma's topic, but you record the interview and then you transcribe that recording. And when you are transcribing that, you can be very conscious when you do it. You can hire someone sometimes, especially when you have like 50 interviews or something like that. You can hire someone to transcribe the interview, or you can use a software to transcribe. But I think it's better if you transcribe it on your own, because when you are doing that, you can start thinking about what coding processes you can use. Like, what are the topics that are becoming relevant? Like, for example, I did one research when one person was extremely relevant. So that person became kind of my code, or one of the codes that I was checking later when I was analyzing my data. Then you can also think, when you are doing this, you can also think about what's the best way to analyze your data. Like, sometimes if you do a timeline of how things happen, it will help you a lot to unpack the process, to unpack what's going on, to unpack who are the key actors, who are the key structures that are making this process work. So a timeline is very useful. And I think in here it also says about writing summaries, because sometimes you forget things, but if you write a summary about a thing that happened, it will also help. Nice. So I think I won't talk a lot about this, because I think you will learn a lot in Brian's qualitative lab. But it's basically, what I want to say is that the data analysis process is not something that starts until you finish with the data collection. It is an ongoing process that starts from even when you do your first interview. So just mention that it's something that overlaps between data collection and data analysis. Well, that's everything for this. And I think in the lecture, we're going to focus a bit more on the different types of methods. And we are going to focus also on a little bit more on the data analysis processes, even though that you will learn a lot from Brian.